Okay, we are looking at the review, and we are going to do one problem from each learning target together, and then I'm going to have you do the rest yourself. So, looking at learning target 2.1, I think I'm going to do number 4. So, we have this inequality here, x minus 8 over 5 is less than or equal to 6. My goal is to get x by itself. So my first step is to get rid of this divided by 5. So the inverse operation of a divided by 5 is a multiplied by 5. So let's do that on both sides. And do that, this cancels, and I'm left with x minus 8 is less than or equal to 30. X is still not by itself, so my next step is to get rid of this minus 8. To get rid of a minus 8, I need to add 8. Which leaves me with x less than or equal to 38. So when I go to graph that, I'm going to put a couple of key values in there. This is a less than or equal sign, so that means I'm going to have a closed circle, the equal sign, and I'm looking for the less than or equal to, so I'm going to shade to the left. So those values are to the left. Let's take a look now at learning target 2.2. I think I will do number 7. So, if I have my variables on both sides of the inequality, I need to do some subtraction to get them on one side. So what I think I'm going to do is subtract this 10x so that I only have one variable. So when I do that, those will cancel. And that leaves me with 5x minus 4 is greater than 36. Now I have one variable on the left side. That's where we like the variable on the left side. So now I'm going to solve using inverse operation. I need to get rid of this negative 4. So I'm going to add 4. When I do that, this will cancel. I'm left with 5x is greater than 40. To get rid of this multiplied by 5, I'm going to divide by 5. So I'm left with x is greater than 8. So we're going to graph this. Put my key value in. This is a greater than sign with no equal sign, so that means that this is going to be an open circle. And I'm talking about greater than, so I'm going to shade to the right, because those values are greater than 8. In this learning target, there are a couple of other things that might happen. You might have to use the distributive property. You also might have to combine like terms on the same side of the inequality. So be on the lookout for those things. Let's take a look at learning target 2.3. I'm going to do 2 of these. I will do number 9, number 12. And I don't have a lot of room, so I'm going to probably run into the problems down there. So I apologize for that in advance. I'm looking at an OR inequality. I need to get R by itself. I'm going to solve these two separately. Let's make this an R so that they match up. First step here, to get rid of a negative 8, I'm going to add 8 to both sides, so that I'm left with 10R is less than negative 15. Now to get R by itself, I'm going to divide by 10. That leaves me with R is less than negative 5. Now looking over here, let's subtract 6 from both sides. So that leaves me with 10R is greater than 10. To get R by itself, I'm going to divide by this 10. Final answer, R is greater than 1. So I have 2 answers here. I'm going to graph those along the same line. I'm going to put my key values in here. You don't have to graph this exactly like I've graphed this, but you should have your key values in this order. So it looks like both of these are going to be open circles because they don't have that equal sign. And then if I'm going less than -5, that's going to shade to the left. And greater than 1, shade to the right. So this graph's like a traditional OR equation, so we are set with that answer. Let's take a look at 12 now. 12 is an AND inequality, and so we need this middle part here to be K alone. K needs to be isolated. So we're going to use our inverse operations. So I'm going to start by getting rid of this -8. To get rid of a -8, I'm going to add 8. And with an AND inequality, you need to do that on every side of the inequalities. So when I'm finished, that's gone. I'm left with -12 is less than 2K, which is less than 14. Now, K is still not by itself. I need to get rid of this multiplied by 2. So again, I'm going to divide everything by 2. Leaving me with an answer of -6 is less than K is less than 7. Now, when I go to graph this, again, I'm going to include my key values, -6 and 7. Looks like these are both going to be open circles. Now, because this is true, I'm looking for a value K, it could be between -6 and 7. I'm going to shade in the middle, like a traditional AND inequality. Now, with these inequalities, remember, you need to be careful for special cases. You could end up with a no solution in an AND inequality. You could end up with an all real numbers in an OR inequality. So be on the lookout for those. Let's move on. Absolute value inequalities. I think I will do number 20 here. So absolute value inequalities have a similar trait to absolute value equations. Just like with the equations, we need to make two cases, a positive case and a negative case. So I'm going to have 8 minus 8p is less than or equal to 40. And then I also need to have my negative case. 8 minus 8p is greater than or equal to -40. Remember, when we make the negative case, we change the direction of the inequality. Now we solve separately. So to get p by itself, my first step is to subtract this 8. Looks like I'm going to run out of room pretty fast here. Hopefully you can still read this. Leaves me with -8p is less than or equal to 32. Now to get p by itself, I'm going to divide by -8 on both sides. That leaves me with p. Because I just divided by a negative, I need to put my sign. P is greater than or equal to -4. Change the color here so you can see a little better. Next step. Again, I need to get p by itself, so I'm going to subtract 8. This time I'm left with -8p greater than or equal to -48. Get p by itself. I'm going to divide by -8. I just divided by a negative number. That means I need to put my inequality. -48 divided by -8. That, I believe, is so. You remember, there's a little trick to knowing whether these are going to show up like AND or inequalities. So I have a less than sign, and a less than sign should look like an AND inequality. And remember, the little trick for remembering that is that if I write out the word less than, all I need to do is add a D, and the word and is right in there. So this should look graphed like an and inequality. So let's check this out. I've got my key values, 4 and 6. Looks like these are going to be closed circles because of that equal sign. And I would like to shade to the right of -4, because those are going to be the values that are greater, and to the left of 6, so they're going to be less than 6. So this does graph like an and inequality, so I believe we're all set. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to move down to learning target 2.5 here. Let's take a look at number 22. And this is a multi-step absolute value. So before I can make my positive and negative case, I need to isolate the absolute value. That means I need to get rid of this divided by 9. To get rid of a divided by 9, I'm going to multiply by 9. So that leaves me the absolute value, 9 minus 8, is greater than 45. Now, because my absolute value is isolated here, I can make my two cases. Positive case and a negative case where I put my inequality. Now, to get n by itself here, I'm going to add 8. That leaves me with n is greater than 53. Over here in this inequality, I'm going to add 8 as well. And that leaves me with n is less than negative 37. Now this is a greater than inequality right here where my absolute value is isolated. So remember, this is an or inequality. And you can remember that by just changing this E to an O, and it spells out the word or. So this should graph like an or inequality. Let's check this out. I've got my key values, negative 37, 53. These are going to be open circles because there's no equal sign in those inequalities. Now, if I want to shade greater than 53, that's going to go to the right. And less than negative 37, that's going to go to the left. So because that does graph like an or inequality, our answer is set.